Hi guys, I'm in the studio today, so things look a little different around here, but Grayson is sleeping over there in the corner and I thought while he was sleeping, now would be the perfect time to sit down and talk about the nitty-gritty of having a C-section, something that's been on my mind lately as I've had a lot of mama friends text me, ask me questions about, their C-section, if they are having a planned one or an emergency one or whatever. I just want to talk about our C-section experience, and maybe that can answer some questions that you guys have about C-section. So firstly, hello, hi if you're new here. My name's Danielle. This is our channel T&D Do Life, where my husband and I just film our lives. We usually vlog our days. And lately we've been sharing a lot of information about our birth experience, about being first-time parents, about my journey as a first-time mom, his journey as a first-time dad. We shared a lot about gestational diabetes because I did have that, and then that led to a kind of emergency C-section. I mean, we weren't planning on a C-section, but it wasn't an emergency as in things were super wrong, but definitely wasn't the plan, and we were very rushed into this C-section experience. So I just wanted to create a video that might help you guys, because in the moment I had not at all prepared myself for a C-section, and there were a lot of things that happened that I just kind of wanted to share and talk about with you. So like I mentioned in the intro, I've had a few mamas reach out that have planned C-sections coming up and had asked me some questions. So I actually have gotten a lot of the questions I'm going to talk about in this video from them. It's things that I would have never thought to answer or to talk about, but because they asked me, I was like, oh, that's a good point. I guess a lot of people have questions about that. So that's why I'm getting this list, and I do have a list on my phone. Let me grab that. And so if I'm looking at my phone, that's why, because I'm going off of the notes that I made. I just copy and pasted their text messages that they had sent me and put it into a note to answer for you guys. To preface all this, I just want to say I'm talking about my experiences. If you guys have had different experiences, if you're watching this and you've had a C-section and something different happened for you, please leave that in the comment section below. We're just here to help and to just chit chat about, what we know, what I know about a C-section, and if you know something different, add that to the conversation. Definitely just know that these are my experiences that I talk about, so some things might be different, and if you are concerned at all or have deeper questions there or want to know more about what I had going on, you can leave it in the comment section, or I encourage you to ask your doctor, because I am not a doctor by any means. Please talk to your doctor about major questions like this, but we can definitely just have a conversation about C-sections, and that's what we're doing here today. So first, a quick breakdown of what happens during a C-section, or at least what happened in my experience. So please remember, I went in to be induced, but was intending to have a vaginal natural labor in that regard. After laboring for a while, we decided a C-section was a better option in that moment due to a multitude of things. If you guys want to know more about my experience, I do have a video all about that. I'll link it down below or up here in the iCard. But anyways, so what happened with me, I know it's a little different if you come in with a planned C-section, it's scheduled, and you're having a C-section when you walk in the door. It might be a little different. So what we did first was we got ready. We got dressed in a gown for surgery. I was wearing a different gown than what they wanted me in the surgery room, so I had to get changed, and by get changed, I mean I laid there and the nurses did stuff to me, and they changed my clothes. They threw stuff out, they gave stuff to my husband, and he then changed as well, put a cap on, little booties on his shoes, the whole thing. After we were all dressed, they inserted a urinary catheter. I'll talk more about this later because that's one of the questions that came up, but I got that inserted in the room. I don't know what that's like. If you have a planned C-section, you might get that inserted when you're in the OR. I'm not sure, but that happened to me in the room, and then I was rolled off to the OR after that. So after I was dressed, my husband was dressed, or your partner or whoever's with you that's coming in, they're dressed, and then you're rolled off to the OR after they give you a catheter. Once I was in the OR, first reaction is it's very bright. There's so many lights and there's so many people. It's a little scary, especially in a situation where it's happening more like an emergency, because just a lot is going on and it's very rushed and it's happening all really, really quick. But I went in, the anesthesiologist was there, and he talked to me first, and we got a spinal put in. Again, more on that later, but I basically just straddled the bed, leaned, like bent over, and he put a spinal in. Then after that, I lay down, they strapped my arms down, more on that later, and they get me fully prepped. And this whole time, Trevor, or your partner, whoever's with you, but in my case, Trevor, was out in the hallway waiting. He could not come in until I was like fully prepped. So they're basically ready to like slice me open. I remember, I think they put heating stuff on me. They put like things on my legs to like pump my blood through my legs. Very standard surgery stuff as far as I know. The only thing is like you're still awake. So once I was fully ready, Trevor came in, they cut me open. Baby was born. They dropped the tarp. I can see baby. They take him off to go get checked out, and Trevor got to go over there and cut the cord. They did what they needed to do with him, and then they brought him over and laid him on me, and I got to hold him the whole time while they finished up the surgery. And then once that was done, I still was holding him, and they rolled me back to our room where I was still holding him, and I got to hold him for essentially as long as I wanted. And then they came in and did other things to both of us, but after that it was like entirely our decision what kind of happened next. That is what happened in my experience during a C-section. A very brief, over the top like explanation of what happened. So now I'll go into some of the nitty-gritty questions that I actually got from people. The first question I'm going to address is, will my partner be able to be with me? And the answer to that is most likely yes. Just know that in the cases that I've heard of, they cannot be in there until you are fully prepped. So they are not in there while you get your spinal. They're not in there while you're laying down getting strapped down. Your partner can then come in right before they're ready to like make the cut and baby come into the world. That way your partner can be there for that moment alongside you. But other than that, your partner is able to be there with you the whole time, at least in all circumstances I heard of and my own circumstances as well. Question number 2, how did they numb you? So you are numbed with a spinal. So essentially it's like an epidural. My understanding is that it's the same medication as an epidural. It just doesn't like stay there. Whereas like an epidural stays in your back. This is a medication that they put in and then it's done and it eventually wears off. At least that's my understanding. So what happened to me was once I was rolled in, like I said, I straddled the table that I was laying on and I leaned forward, and the anesthesiologist is behind me and he's touching my spine trying to find wherever location he needs, and a nurse was actually in front of me holding my hands because she probably just knew that I was scared and my husband wasn't there, but I'm sure that there will be plenty of nurses there to make you feel better in that moment because I was definitely a little traumatized. But I'm leaning forward and he's finding the spot. The first step was numbing medication, and to be honest, that hurt the worst. It is a pinching, burning pain. And that's exactly how the anesthesiologist explained it to me. Like as he's doing his thing, he's like, okay, you're gonna feel pinch and then burning. And so he was like inserting the numbing medication, and our anesthesiologist was kind of a funny guy. And so like as he's putting it in, he's like, burn, baby, burn, burn, baby, burn. But I think it was helpful in the sense that 1, it distracted me, and 2, I knew when he was like done singing that part was over. And that was the most painful part. It just kind of, it burned essentially is what it felt like. And then he did the spinal where he actually goes into, as far as I understand, my spinal cord with a needle and inserts whatever medication it is. And I am numbed from like that point down. So like my chest down was essentially numb. I could not feel anything. And it wasn't like instantaneous. It was this warm, tingly feeling that happened. But after they did that, they helped lay me down, as in the anesthesiologist and a few nurses, slowly laid me down to where I needed to be, because at this point I'm starting to get numb, so they want me flat. They take my arms, and I do not believe I was like strapped down. I don't think my arms were like stuck, but they were laid out on these things, and I'm pretty sure I could move them if I wanted to. But like they're obviously intended to be there. But when they laid like Grayson on my chest, I could put my arms and hold him. They helped me because there were cords and cables in my arms, like IVs and different things. So when the time came for me to put my arms on Grayson, they helped me get my arms there. But it wasn't because I was strapped or I couldn't move my arms. It was just there was like a lot going on and I didn't know how or where to move my arms. But you were numb from like the waist down after they do the spinal. I guess not waist, chest. So I had a friend, when we were talking about this, text me and say, I know you're numb, but please be honest. Do you feel anything? And that's a great question, because being awake while being numb is definitely a unique experience. And it feels, you don't feel any pain whatsoever. But what you feel is pressure, and only sometimes. Like, I didn't feel like every pressure, everything that was happening, but when big pressure moments happened, that's what I felt. So for example, the biggest feeling I felt was when Grayson came out, and the doctors actually told me that that was going to happen. They were like, okay, we're gonna have big pressure, we're gonna push on your belly. So I think what happened, again, I can't see anything, there's a tarp up, is they push really hard here, and then they're pulling baby out of the incision down here. So I felt all of that push and like that tug of him like coming out of my incision, but again, not painful whatsoever. Definitely just like a pressure experience. Felt like if someone was pushing on you kind of right now in a very like, you know, gentle push way. That's what I felt. If you've ever had like a tooth pulled or anything like that, the kind of numbing sensation you feel with that, where you can like feel the dentist like pulling on your tooth and tugging on your tooth but no pain, that's exactly what you're experiencing down here. It's that sensation of like, I can feel you're doing something but it does not hurt. Question number 4 to go along with that is, could you hear anything? And you can. You can hear everything happening down there. It's a little weird. You hear suction, you hear, it's basically all you hear is a lot of suction happening. For me in that moment, because my C-section was more or less like an emergency type situation, happened really fast, like a lot going on. At this point, I am kind of having an out-of-body experience to begin with. Like, I am not connected to my body in that moment. I was so like, so much going on that those noises and those suctions did not bother me. I can see how they could bother someone, and I'm sure if we are blessed to have another baby and have to go through another C-section and I am a lot more prepared, maybe those noises will be a little bit weirder for me, but in the moment it was kind of cool. I could hear things happening, but it didn't bother me. I didn't think too much about it in that moment. But you definitely hear everything going on down there. Question number 5, I kind of briefly addressed earlier. One of my friends said, with your arms being strapped down, were you still able to hold Grayson right after, or did they give him to Trevor? And so in our circumstance, my arms were not strapped down. After Grayson was born, he went off to the side. They did whatever they needed to. Trevor got to cut the cord. And then when that was all done, they bundled him up and they brought Grayson to me. Trevor never held him. They brought him straight to me, and they laid him down on me, and that's when the nurses helped me put my arms up to hold him while they finished my surgery down below. We have some vlog footage of this in our birth vlog, I believe, which again, I'll link up here or in the description. You can see how he's just laying on me and we got to hold him. These circumstances might be different if the reason you're having a C-section is because there's something wrong with your baby, or they need to go take your baby somewhere or do something. These things that I got to experience, you might not get to experience in the same way. Kind of depends on your circumstance. But if baby is healthy and you and all other regard are healthy, I would expect that you can still hold your baby. And if this is a big preference of yours, definitely just express these things to your doctor. Skin to skin was a huge thing for me, but in the moment I didn't express that to my doctor in a way that I could have skin to skin in the OR. We were able to go back to the room and have skin to skin. Personally, I would have preferred if in that moment he could have just been laid on me, but he was laid on me all wrapped up and I still had my gown pulled up. These are all things that you can express to your doctor and see if they're possible for you in that moment. Okay, so these next questions are more about recovery, less about what's happening in the OR. So question number 6, did you still need the big diapers or were you just wearing underwear with large pads? Because if you guys saw my hospital bag video, I did bring like Depends diapers for me to wear, and this is honestly just personal preference. So with a C-section delivery, you do still bleed. So you still, like, all of that blood and everything that's like inside you needs to get out still. So you do still bleed. I think I bled for quite a while, pretty heavily the entire time I was in the hospital. But I think for like 2 or 3 weeks I was still wearing like pads, albeit small near the end. But at the beginning, I did still like the diapers. When I first was in the hospital, they provided me with giant pads and mesh underwear, which were really nice because the mesh underwear were loose and comfy. But then when the time came where I wanted something a little more fitted, but I wanted something easy because huge pads are super annoying, the diapers were really nice because I could just put them on and they were good to go. So like I said, it all comes down to personal preference on like what you want down there, but you will need something because you will still bleed even though you did not birth your baby vaginally. Question number 7. I know you're probably numb for a while. How bad was the pain once the numbness wore off, and what did you find worked best to manage that pain? So you are numb for a while. I can't remember exactly how long. After having a baby, it's kind of all a blur in that moment because I didn't mind the numbness. I'm just sitting in bed holding my baby. We called family. It was a few hours that I was probably numb for because we talked to family for quite a while. I'm also not the best person to tell you about pain because I believe that I handle pain quite well. I also had a very easy healing process with my C-section. I'm very grateful for that. So my experience with pain and healing has been very nice, and I know that's not the circumstance for everybody. Once the numbness wore off, I definitely felt pain when my pain meds were wearing off. And one of the questions here was, what did you find worked best for managing their pain? The doctors gave me something. I can't even remember the name of it. I was in the hospital for 4 days, and after that, I quit taking pain medication. They prescribed it to me and I could still go pick it up, but I think I did pick it up, but I did not take any after I was out of the hospital. So everybody is very different. Some people need that pain medication for a lot longer. I took it entirely in the hospital, and when I was in the hospital, I did need it when I needed it. Like I could tell it would wear off after a few hours or whatever, and I could tell, and then I needed it. But I was also moving a lot in the hospital. I was still getting up. I was still doing things. I was still walking around my room, taking myself to the bathroom by myself, all that kind of stuff. So I was doing a lot, which made me hurt a lot. But I think that because I did a lot is why I healed so well. I did not just sit around. I was moving, and I think that movement helped with the healing process for me. The biggest thing for me that was the most painful was sleeping. You get no sleep after a baby is born to begin with, let alone after a C-section when you're recovering from a surgery and you hurt. I am a side sleeper or a belly sleeper, and I could not sleep on my side. Obviously could not sleep on my belly, but I could not sleep on my side at all because for me, I would lay on my side and the weight of my stomach still would pull, and that would pull on my incision and hurt so bad. Probably about a week after Grayson was born was when I finally could put pillows there and lay on my side and feel comfortable. But I would try that earlier and it would not help. I would still feel that pulling and that tugging off to the side. There was no time that I was told I couldn't sleep on my side, but my personal everything going on, I could not sleep on the side. It hurt so bad. Question number 8, how long did it take you to feel somewhat like yourself again, movement-wise? And for me, I think it probably took about 2 weeks. Like I said, I think I healed quite quickly and I handled my pain quite well. So 2 weeks could be more or less than you guys. I think everybody experiences things very different. If you're a mama of C-section birth, leave your answers to these questions down below too. How long did it take you to heal? Because everybody is very, very different. But for me, I felt movement-wise more like myself at about 2 weeks postpartum. I definitely did not feel like myself because I just had a baby. But as far as like healing-wise, I think that's when I felt like I could move more or less like myself. Question number 9, appetite-wise, did you find you were hungry or not so much? For me, I had absolutely no appetite. I did not want to eat at all. I knew I needed to because I was breastfeeding, so I was force feeding myself food, but I did not want to eat. The thought of eating kind of made me sick, but I did it anyways. This was something I brought up to my doctor at our 1 week appointment with Grayson, and he wasn't super concerned. I guess it could be something that happens, after any surgery. And so my appetite did come back. I have full appetite now. We're over 2 months out, almost 3 months out, and very much myself right now and have been for a while appetite wise, but at the beginning I did not want to eat at all. I actually wound up losing a bunch of weight at the beginning, got down to pre-pregnancy weight in like 2 weeks, which I don't think is normal at all. But in 2 weeks I was less than pre-pregnancy weight because I just wasn't eating, but I was still breastfeeding, so I was like losing all of those calories and all of those nutrients because they were going to Grayson, but I wasn't eating. That didn't last too long though. I do have my appetite back now and gained that weight back too. So those are all the questions I got from friends that I have listed in my phone, but I do have some other things that they didn't bring up that I wanted to talk about with C-section that was something that I didn't know. First thing and the biggest thing for me, because this was a huge part of my anxiety as a first-time mom, I was constantly concerned about Grayson choking or gagging and stuff. And the reason for that was because in those first few days of birth, he was doing that a lot. And that gave me a lot of anxiety later on with him. And the reason he was doing that is because, something I didn't know, C-section babies have a lot of fluid in them. And that's because with a vaginal birth baby, they go through your vaginal canal and get squished. And a lot of that fluid will come out when they're getting squished through your vaginal canal. And because it doesn't happen like that when your baby's born at a C-section, they have a lot of congestion. They're very mucousy. They spit up differently. They breathe differently. Like Grayson had like a lot of nasal congestion. He would gag a lot, and that would really, really worry me as a first-time mom. So just know if you're having a C-section, that might happen too. It was definitely scary and caused a lot of anxiety for me, but that is apparently totally normal. And the next thing, my biggest piece of advice for anybody out there having a C-section or planning a C-section is to remember, no matter the circumstances, you can still get the things that you want that are important to you. They just need to be discussed with your doctor. So these are things like cutting the cord, having skin to skin, breastfeeding within the first hour, like all of these things, if they are important to you and the circumstances are right as far as healthy baby and healthy mom, they should be allowed to still happen for you even if you have a C-section. And that's really reassuring it was to me to know that those things could still happen. And it's really reassuring that you can have that conversation with your doctor and they can still know your wishes even though you're having a C-section and not a vaginal birth. A lot of things that are good for you and baby when you're having a vaginal birth, they still do want to try to do with you when you have a C-section. So just express those interests to your doctor and see how you can make that work for you in that moment. In conclusion, I did not want to have a C-section at all. Last thing on my list I wanted to have. I literally like pushed against it at every moment I could. But now that I've had one, I am actually very excited to have my future births as C-section. I don't plan, as of this moment, to push for a VBAC or anything like that. I'm very comfortable with the idea of a C-section. And I'm actually excited that my future babies will be born via C-section because there is something reassuring about knowing the sequence of events, about knowing, this is scheduled, this is planned, this is when things are going to happen. And that when a C-section happens, you lay down in the OR, you get cut open, a baby comes out, you get to see baby goes off, baby gets prepped, baby comes back to you on your chest. Boom, boom, boom. All these things happen very planned, very controlled. There are lots of doctors and nurses in the room. I did not have a vaginal birth, so I can't say this for sure, but I think that there's a lot more, at least it felt like it to me, of these doctors and nurses in the room when you have a C-section. So that's really nice to know. That's really reassuring. And I had a great recovery experience, so I am not super worried about my future births like that. And I think that hearing me say that, I hope brings you comfort if you are planning a C-section, or even if you're not and you're just finding this video because C-section, is something you're concerned about that might happen, because it happens so much nowadays. But just know that it's really not bad. I went into it thinking it was this awful thing that everybody should try to avoid, that it's not natural, that it's not the way we should have babies. But that's not true. These are all things we just tell ourselves. And as long as your baby is here happy and healthy, whatever way you have that baby, honestly, it doesn't matter. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, make sure to give it a big thumbs up. If you guys are new here and you aren't already subscribed to our channel, be sure to do so. The links are all in the description. And we also post these vlogs on Facebook, so make sure you head over there and follow us on Facebook if you haven't already. We post a lot of vlogs. We're planning to post Vlogmas this year. We do it every year and have been for a while. We have so many videos on our channel, so if you're new here and want to learn about us, go check those out. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye! Boop.